and thank you all for being here for our very first CTE discussion hosted on Zoom by our Educators in Action. This is a very exciting new experiment we're trying out. And our first speaker today is Dawn Lindsley. She's been a CTE professional for 14 years and currently works as the accreditation coordinator for Oklahoma Career Tech, where she has helped design and implement a new accreditation process for the technology centers across the state. She was a 2012 ACTE Fellow and has served on the National FCCLA Board of Directors and is currently completing a doctorate in educational leadership. She is also one of our members of the CTE Awareness Advisory Group. So with that, I will give it to Dawn.
All right. Well, thank you, Kate. I appreciate that introduction. I'm going to go ahead and get started so we have a chance to get through lots of things. I'm going to try and share my screen, and we'll see if that works. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. Well, I'm a family and consumer science teacher as my background, and then I started to go through the administrative loop, and through some of my classes in administration, we're obviously working with educational technology. And if you're anything like Oklahoma, there's a lot of budget crisis right now, and so how can we do more with less, and how can we utilize free resources? And so that's kind of what this is all about. I created a wiki site. I always say the best things in life are free, and free stands for free resources for educator excellence. And so this is the wiki page that I created, and you have access to it 24/7, and I always try and update it from time to time. And people can join a wiki, so you are part of editing the web page if you so choose, or you can just come to the website and utilize the resources that are on it. As an educator in the past several years, I found we have so much information that's always coming into us, and I'm one of those people who like kind of a one-stop shop. And so I created this page to kind of help with that. And so I'm just going to go through some of the different things that I've included on this page, and hopefully you'll find them useful. I will say technology can be a black hole. You can get so ingrained in everything and lose lots of time doing this. So I guess pace yourself, because I have lots of different resources on here. But it can also be very good to leverage the way that you communicate out messages to others and create things that you can utilize for professional looking resources to help you spread awareness about your programs, the classes that you're teaching, your school, your state. And so I'm just going to go into this. This is actually the first page, what we call the wiki homepage. And I'm an Albert Einstein fan, so, you know, learn from your mistakes. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We are constantly changing in the education world these days. And so you have to try different things and see what works. Some things will, and they'll be a good fit for you, and some things won't. So pick and choose as you go and explore this website later on your own time. Some things you'll find that'll be awesome and you'll utilize them on a daily basis, and some things you may think, I really don't like that, that's not user friendly for me. You know, you utilize this however you see fit for you. I'm not going to go through this right now, but I always usually start out my presentations with Ellen. She has a little clip on YouTube that talks about bad apps. I hope that none of these apps on this website or web pages that we go to are not bad apps in your perspective. I've tried to keep the educator in mind and how you can utilize these things in a lot of different ways depending on the position that you're in currently. So that's just page one, just kind of a landing page. Where I really get into a lot of stuff is starting on the next page. I call this the social life. A lot of you are probably very familiar with the websites and links included on this page. I like to start out with telling some stories about how I personally use things to help you relate and how you might use them. I was a huge Facebook fan from the very beginning, so obviously I have gotten on there and used that a lot. As an educator for Facebook, when I was in the classroom, I set up a private page for our CTSO. FCCLA was the one that I was associated with, and so our chapter was able to correspond via Facebook, because you have Facebook on your phone usually as an app that you can get to instantly. So if I wanted to push out information to my students about an upcoming event, or we needed to correspond back and forth or give directions or anything like that, that's one way that I used Facebook. Another way, when I was involved in leadership in Kansas on the ACTE team, I created what we called a public page that was, I support Kansas CTE and CTSOs. And so anyone who was on that page could post information showcasing what they were doing in their local programs, so people across the state could see best practices. They could also get recognition from other areas that they might not have otherwise by showcasing what they were doing in their programs and whatnot with their activities and their program of work. Also utilize that page when we went to ACTE's National Policy Seminar. We would post pictures from when we went to legislative offices, and we would tag our legislators, and so some of the legislators joined that page, or asked to join that page, so they could see what was happening around the state by just anyone who was a teacher or a CTSO member or a CTE student posting. It was a very grassroots level, and it worked out really well. We also posted legislative contact information, so people could get that information if they didn't go to Washington, D.C., or they didn't go to the Capitol in the state. They would still have access to that information at their fingertips, so they could push information out to those people who make decisions that have an effect on their programs. Hootsuite is a good tool if you have lots of different social media platforms that you utilize to push out information about your programs or your organization. You can put all of your different social media on there, and then it will allow you to schedule timed messages to go out on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. So if you want an anecdotal message to go out, or you want some statistics to go out that are timely, you can push those things out on a regular basis. And instead of you sitting at the computer and trying to do it on Facebook, then do the message on Twitter, and then do the message on Instagram, you can put all of that into one message on Hootsuite, and then Hootsuite will send it out to all of your different social media accounts that you want it to. A couple others on there. Plurk is one that if you're searching for information about a topic, about best practices, just something you want to know about education related, you can go onto that site and type a question. And there are thousands of educators on there who will, if they know the answer to that question or want to respond, they will send you a response. Let's see if this is going to work. I'm at work today, so sometimes work blocks some websites, but we'll try it. All right, so Plurk, pretty much anything that I show from my wiki page is free, or there is a free version of it, and you can always upgrade to another type of account. But basically what Plurk is it's similar to Twitter. You don't type in very many characters, but you have a question, you type it in, and then you'll see this number over here to the side. And that is that person got 191 responses to that statement or that question. So that's basically how Clerk works. You sign in, you post your question and your comment, and then people respond to you. So very simple and easy to use. Obviously, you can see that this one is in many different countries also. There are different languages on there as well. So I'll click into some of these sites as we go so you can kind of see what they are. Any questions about social media before I move on to the next page?
Can you talk maybe a little bit about Facebook, and have you had any issues with students not being able to access through the school site, or complications with that? That's something that we run into, and we can't use Facebook for school stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are always complications with some of these because they're blocked by different filters that the school has set up. And I always say, if one thing's blocked, you can usually find something else. Edmodo is another Facebook-like type of program, and it is usually not blocked by educators or schools because it is like Facebook for education. It's set up with some more security measures within it, and the students have to be linked to a specific teacher or specific class in there to initially get in. So there are several of these that may or may not work depending on how strong the security filters are at your school. So it just depends. So I always say, if something doesn't work, try and find something else that might be able to. And Edmodo is kind of a backup if Facebook doesn't work. Any other questions on social media stuff? All right, we're going to go into everything Google. And I will tell you, I need to update this page a little bit because I know there are some additions that have been added, and there's at least one link on here that I know doesn't work right now, so I'm going to try to find another one. Google, you may be a Google school, you may not be a Google school, but if you are, or if you like utilizing Google even at home as a good resource, it has lots of things that educators can use effectively and not cost anything to you. I have embedded some videos on this page. This first one's just a general Google application and how it can work for you. I do have some in here where there's principals and teachers talking about how they utilize Google in their school and in their classroom. So just wanted you to be aware of some of those types of things. And then down here at the bottom, Google Scholar is something if you're having your students do research projects, or if you're like me working on your doctorate and you are trying to research things, you can utilize this resource to your advantage. Some of the things that I just wanted to kind of talk about as you go through. Google Alerts is something that I really like to set up because I have career and technical education as my alert, and so on a daily basis Google sends me 5 to 10 articles that came out that day or recently about career and technical education. And so that helps me keep up with what's going on, not just in my state, but around the nation when it comes to career and technical education. And you can set up all types of things. When I was in the classroom, I had family and consumer sciences as an alert too, so it would pull in things. And I had FCCLA, so it would, and you can set it up however you want, if you want it as a daily email, as a weekly email, but it's just, if you're interested in knowing what's going on, not only in your state, but just around the country and internationally, you can set that up as an alert. You give it the key terms to look for, and it will pull it in however often you want to see that. And basically, it just gives you links to go to read newspaper articles, blogs, websites, where information has recently come out. So I found it very valuable as an educator just to keep up with what's going on. Google Blogger, that's where you can publish web blogs. If you are interested in pushing out things, it makes it pretty easy to set up and get that information out. You can also subscribe to different blogs as well. If you're working on documents with other people, whether it's right there where you're working, whether it's statewide or national-wide, you can create a Google Doc where everybody can be working on that document at the same time, and every 2 minutes it saves whatever people are typing. So if you're working on different projects, a white paper to publish out about, you know, best practices in CTE, and you want lots of input from different experts from around the nation or around your state, that's a good source to use for those kinds of things. Google Hangouts, I say we, ACTE, did a Google Hangout with I believe some administrators. One of them was from ours in Oklahoma, and I know there were some others on the Google Hangout as well during ACTE month, or CTE month, back in February. And it's where you can just go online and have a group of people similar to this Zoom meeting that we're having. People can talk and share ideas and discuss. So it's a good, easy way to utilize that. And then the other one that I was going to mention, which I did already, was the Google Scholar. A lot of times, at least in my doctoral research, CTE is one of the things that I'm looking into. And so I've done a lot of research and found that probably CTE, out of all the areas of education, is the least researched. And that makes sense because we're practical application, hands-on learning. However, in the education field, we still want to be well known, and so it's nice to know that there are still others out there doing research about what we do in CTE. So we have the research component in addition to all of the hands-on things that we're doing. So it's just a good resource for peer-reviewed articles, peer-reviewed journals, books, other types of media where you can find information, archive videos, so on and so forth. So any questions about Google? I didn't go through everything in here, but I did go through some of the things that I have utilized through this particular page on the wiki. All right, I'm going to take that silence as going on. All right, my favorite, absolute favorite page, and what I always add to, is getting techie with it. And I will tell you, I've thought about doing this particular page a lot of different ways, but the way I currently have it set up, and probably the way that it'll stay at least in the near future, is alphabetical order. Because I've done this presentation several different places, and people have asked me, well, can you categorize things? Like, you utilize these sources for promotional materials. You utilize these sources for assessment types of things that I can do in my classroom. And depending on what group you're talking to, administrators, teachers, support staff, they all have different ideas of how they can utilize these resources depending on their current job that they're in. And for one, it might work in one area, and for another, it might work in another area. So it's so different depending on who you're talking to. I just decided, you know what, I'm going to keep it in alphabetical order, and we're just going to leave it like that. So that's the way I've organized this page. All of the apps, websites, different pieces that are included on this page are what we call Web 2.0, and it's you go to this site and you're able to actually do something, create something on that website that you can then take and utilize somewhere else. It's not what I would say is a static website where you just go to that website to get information and then you leave. These websites, you can go and do something, create something, ask questions, get responses. It might be an interactive website. So that's why it's called Getting Techie With It, just as kind of something unique and different. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is big, huge labs, and that's where this picture comes from. So I'm a very visual person. That's one thing that I liked, and in my classroom, I was very colorful and visual in the way that I had my walls. When I became an administrator, we had some display areas, and when we would talk at parent-teacher nights and different other activities, CTE advisory committee meetings, we would try to have visuals up that showed pictures of the students actually doing different things and showcasing their skills and showing best practices and their projects. And so I found this to be very valuable. Big Huge Labs is a website that you can go to, and you can either use stock photos that are on the website, or you can actually upload your own photos that you take. And it's basically those big successory type posters that you see hanging around in different offices. You get to create something along those lines, or movie posters advertising the latest shows out in the theaters. That's the type of thing that you get to create when you go to this website. Classroom example, I used to teach some food and nutrition courses, and so I would a lot of times have students who didn't know what the different pieces of equipment were. So I would take pictures, upload them, give the name of what that piece of equipment was and what it was used for, print those off, put them around the laboratory area, and then have them do an equipment search to start to learn where things were in the culinary arts lab. So that's a way that a teacher can utilize it. If you're showcasing a program, or you're talking with legislators and you have the opportunity to set up booths in your state capitol, you can create these types of signs where you show students who are actually doing things, or you know, if you work with adults, you know, adult clients who are actually doing CTE work, capture some of those pictures and then put together these types of posters that you can showcase. So if a legislator can't go on a work site or can't come to a school for some reason for a site visit, they can actually see the types of things that are happening in our classrooms, in our laboratories, when students are out on job sites, learning the skills that we teach in career and technical education. So just a way to utilize this resource in a variety of different ways. I'm going to keep scrolling down. The next one I'm going to talk about is Blogster. If you have web pages or wikis that you create, I'm trying to pull this one up. This actually creates posters and collages that you can be interactive with and actually put on your wiki page or your website, so someone who comes can actually interact and have a Web 2.0 website where whoever comes to your page can do something with your page and not just come to get information. So kind of a unique way to be more creative with things that you are publishing out on the web. Scrolling down a little bit further, Poll Everywhere. I know some people have utilized this resource. I'll tell you the funnest way I've heard it used. There was a school setting, and they, comprehensive schools, they wanted to get information and input from their stakeholders, parents, community members, but they could never get people to come in for meetings. So they thought, how can I utilize technology and leverage it in my advantage? And so at the biggest rivalry basketball game of the year, the principal and superintendent rented 2 TVs, large TVs, and set them at each end of the basketball court. And then during every timeout, during between games, they would post questions from Poll Everywhere, and then people would text in their answers. So it was a unique way. They said it was the most information they've ever, or most feedback they've ever gotten from their community. You know, just a different way of thinking about how can you utilize technology to your advantage to get information that you're needing to make decisions to move forward, whether it be your school, your state, your organization, CTSO, whoever it is that you're working with. Just some creative ways to do some of those kinds of things. All right, Powtoon is one of my favorite new websites to go to and utilize. You know, it costs a lot of money sometimes to hire companies to do professional videos and different things like that, but how can you utilize tools at your fingertips to do those kinds of things? And if you have students, set them in front of a computer and give them some guidelines that you want to have in a project, and then let them go to town with this website. And I'm going to actually show you something that we created a couple of years ago when we were starting to go through a new process here at our state agency with continuous improvement. We were changing the way that we were thinking about some things, and so there was kind of a steering committee, and one of their tasks was, okay, put what you're thinking in a video. And so they actually created this using Powtoon and then uploaded it to YouTube, and it's been shared and viewed a lot of different times. So we'll see if this is going to work for us today. It's just a couple minutes long. All right, so you can see there's all kinds of different things that you can do with that Powtoon system. As a teacher, after you've taught a unit, have them create a Powtoon to see what they learned from that unit that you just finished. For us, we were implementing some new ideas with continuous improvement at our agency, and so after they had gone through several sessions, It was like, okay, what have we done? Where are we at? Where are we going? Put that in a video. And so it worked well. It's creative, and all of that is done with, that particular one was done with the free version of that website. So there are lots of things that you can do for free, and then you can always upgrade your account to get access to further tools that you can utilize. Another one on here, Prezi. If you're tired of PowerPoints, it's just a different way of putting together a presentation. And if you're a person who kind of storyboards things out, that might be a way that you can create a presentation that is more engaging to your audience. I'm quickly going through some others, that way we have some time for some question and answer here at the end. Another one that is becoming quite popular these days is Remind 101. This is used to push out notifications about all kinds of different things. Classroom teachers use it, coaches use it, schools are starting to use it. It basically sends text messages, and that message also goes out through email. So there are lots of other versions, School Reach and different things like that, but Remind 101 is a popular one that a lot of people are using. Screencast-O-Matic, this is another favorite one of mine. If you're trying to get information out to people, but they may not be able to listen to it right at that point in time. If you're a teacher and you're trying to create a flipped classroom concept, this might work well. It can be utilized in a lot of different ways, and what I like about it, it is very user-friendly. So you have a free account, and you can record up to 15 minutes at a time with a free account, or you can purchase a pro account, and that is just $15 a year for the entire account. Basically, if you see here, there's this dotted line in a square. You make that as big or as small on your computer to capture whatever it is on the screen that you want to capture. And you can just capture the computer screen itself. You can do a webcam, so you are talking to what you are capturing on video, or you can do a combination of both. Have the screen itself, and then you be a little box in the corner talking. And basically all you do is hit record. It gives you a 3, 2, 1, and then you can do your presentation, you can do your course lesson if you're a teacher, whatever it is that you want to record, and then you can easily upload when you're done to YouTube or some other site to utilize for giving that information out, or having that so anybody can access it at any point in time. Very easy to use. It does not have editing features in it, so it's a one-time shoot as far as the video presentation part goes. However, you can pause it it's going to take you a little bit to change on the screen what it is that you're doing, and you don't want to lose that amount of time. You can pause it and start it up again in recording. But really easy system. I find bypasses a lot of firewalls also if that's an issue at your school, but very user-friendly. All right, what else do I have on here? Today's Meet is another one I wanted to tell you about. Basically, if you're doing a presentation and you don't want to necessarily get interrupted, but you want people to be able to ask the questions when they're thinking about them, you can set up a Today's Meet. Basically give them a web address to go to, and they can go to that on their phone and type in a question as they have it, and then at the end of your presentation, much like a chat room, you can go back through and make sure you answer any of the questions that were asked throughout the presentation. You can also print off the dialogue from that presentation or from that chat box that happened during the presentation. Also, if you have students in your classroom that are shy and don't want to raise their hand and ask a question because they just think it might be the wrong thing to ask or are embarrassed by it, you can utilize this in the classroom as well for students if they're allowed access to their phones or their iPads or a laptop to be able to do that. A few more before I open it up for discussion. Wigio or Wigio, I'm not actually sure how it's pronounced, but this is a great kind of project management tool. It's set up very similar to Facebook in the way it has a news feed in the middle so people can type questions, make statements, so on and so forth, but it's mainly I used it when we were doing projects with a group of people around the nation. And so you have your discussion board news feed in the middle, but then you can also upload pictures, documents, RSS feeds, all kinds of different things. But it's when you want to keep it in a closed setting with just that group of people for just that project. It's a great management tool for some of those types of things. You can also host virtual meetings through that, and there's a shared calendar in there so people can always know what's going on. Wordle. Anybody ever seen posters like this one in the middle of the page here that I have? Wordle is one of the different websites where you can create word cloud posters. This one happens to be on career and technical education. And the more times that you type in a word, the larger and more bold that it gets. And then you can create these as posters to put around your classroom, your school, your meeting, different things like that. This site actually has about 5 different templates. So it has, this is a white background with kind of teal, purple, and red. There's also black backgrounds with yellow and green and orange. So there's 5 or 6 different template backgrounds that you can utilize in creating your posters. And then the last one, and one ACTE is just taking advantage of for these pilot online discussions, is Zoom. And that's basically what we are on. It's a online platform where you can do presentations, share information, have meetings. You can do it through scheduled time like we had set up for today. So you all got a link that you just need to click into to get into the meeting. You can set up an instant meeting and you have basically a meeting room that you can keep open all the time where if somebody wants to pop in and have a conversation. If you ever do like virtual office hours or something along those lines, people can just pop into your meeting room if you have their link to their meeting ID link, and you can just pop in, talk to them, and then pop back out. So, all right, I went through a lot of things really fast and didn't even hit everything. So what kinds of questions do you have from this Getting Techie With It page?
Dawn, let me ask actually, how did you find all this stuff? What sort of process did you do to find all these different things of all different purposes?
A lot of this stuff, through my educational technology class, I played, in all actuality, went out and I would type something that, at that time, I was part-time in the classroom still and part-time administrator. And so I would think, okay, how can I find something that will help me be more efficient or effective with my time? And then I would go out and just search it and see what I could find. I also, during that time, went to several conferences and would always go to technology workshops and intelligence gathering is what I call it, but beg, borrow, and steal from other people and what they had utilized and found most effective. And then for 3 years, when I was in my last job in Kansas, I was a professional development coordinator, basically led professional development on a daily basis with a staff of 152 people. And so I had them go out and explore some of these kinds of things a couple of different times a year and come back and talk about how they would utilize it. We actually created their own separate wiki page at that school, and each department had their own page. I had the Everything Google site and the Getting Techie with it, and then because they were a part, they opted into the wiki, they were able to upload websites and apps and things like that that they utilized and found really effective. And so I did a lot of intelligence gathering through other people that way. And so there are some things on here that I don't use a whole lot, but other educators have found very useful in what it is that they do. So I just go ahead and keep it on here and then just continuously add. And then there's usually a couple times a year when I go through and click into every single site and make sure that it's still a working link, because I want people to not have to come here and then a link is broken or it no longer exists. So I try and do that on a regular basis too. I had to delete one I was really upset with a while back called Extra Normal. And it was where a student could go in and type text, and then it would create a little Volky avatar person who would talk and do a video after. So they typed stuff in, and then it created a video by what they taught or what they typed in. And so it was great for end of unit assessment or end of if you taught a specific topic and wanted the students to relay back what they had learned. It was a great little assessment piece that the students loved doing because they got to create videos and they had their little people who were talking back to them. So, but that site went out of business. So I do go in on usually twice a year and try and check all the links to make sure they still work too.
Wow, that was very thorough, very good.
What other questions do you have? From the perspective of doing these online discussions, we were trying to go for CTE awareness, but I think you can see I tried to give you different perspectives from a teacher, from an administrator, how you might be able to use these things, not just for CTE awareness, but in other ways too. So I kind of tried to do dual purpose as we went through this. And there's lots of things that I didn't talk about. So I hope that you will come back to this site and really explore. And if you want to join it, I would love to have people join it to add different things that you find useful and valuable as an educator and a CTE professional across the nation.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dawn. This was a really great presentation, and you were the first one to do one of these CTE discussions. So you're a brave person to be the first. And thank you all for actually attending this discussion. I did want to note that we have recorded this, and we are going to have the recording available on our summer CTE discussions page on the ACTE website, either later today or later this week. And I also wanted to add that our next summer CTE discussion, which I hope you all join in for as well, will be on July 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. The topic is Business and Industry Partnerships, and that discussion will be led by Rick Kalk. Again, thank you so much, Dawn, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.